Thank you, Julia. Thank you, Pakin. It's really very nice to be here and learn from all these different experiences. For this reason, I thought to bring to you an experience that you cannot find anywhere else, but in Venice, Venezia, Italy. It's a special city where everything is different. So are you ready for our trip to Venice? Yeah. Actually, there is another half an hour with Mark just after me, which is still in Venice, so you have 1 hour to enjoy Venice. Has any one of you been in Venice as a courier also? No? Yes? Yes. Okay. So we are going to see. I wanted to start from really from the basic to know what is Venice. Venice is a unique city and is one of the most important art and cultural cities in the world. For this reason, artworks are traveling all the time and has been traveling in and out of Venice since ever, much before any international standard and guideline was even thought and established. Italian artworks from Venice museums, going to many national and international exhibitions, classic, modern, contemporary artworks coming to Venice from many museums to the many exhibition venues in Venice, museums, art galleries. And then we have the Biennale. Every 2 years, hundreds of artworks are coming to Venice and going back home, safely, normally, most of the time. Venice, as I said, is a unique city, and unique is logistic for art. Logistic for art, but logistic for everything, because everything happens in Venice with the boat. Art, transportation, parcels, wine transportation, food, everything. Everything is with a boat. As we will see, we have to face a very peculiar situation, and some of the standards must be reconsidered as they cannot apply to Venice. We keep receiving requests sometimes about boats, if they are climate controlled, if which, could be, because food, there are small ones that are not for art, but also if they are a ride, which is even more strange request. So we try to explain, and I hope with this presentation to give a better view of what is happening in Venice. The final aim of this presentation is to show how artworks are handled in Venice and give some tips to work with the shipping schedule, because this is also peculiar, design the packing crates, understand the problems the agents like us and our friends and colleagues that are here have to face, and possibly to get the courier prepared to what they will find in Venice. So, and to give you a better feeling of Venice, I'm going to continue this presentation in Italian, so you are... So let's start with this. It's not going. Should I do anything? This must be turned on, or?
Just press it once. John, it's not advancing.
This is Venice.
Technical difficulties.
So, anyway, while John is taking care of this, I will... It's working now? Okay. So this is what we are going to see quickly at the arrival in Venice. We have air freight, road, and carry. Sea freight is not very usual, but it can happen. Loading on the boat, water transport, unloading and handling, We are going to see the main venues, route and time to reach these venues. Ground transportation. Water transportation and ground transportation is how you handle artworks in Venice. Boat type, loading capacity, custom formalities, police escort, courier, follow boat, not car, traffic limitation, and just a quick about insurance. So let's start with this and explaining that Venice is an island. It's this one. This is the mainland. There is a big bridge leading to Venice, but this is all Venice. Actually, many little islands together. You can start to see here, I think this is very important, where normally the artworks are loaded on the boats here. You have the Canal Grande, this one, and then many, many little canals all around. It's an island, many islands, but they are pedestrian islands. I mean, there are islands where you can go with a car, with the trucks. Here, no, you cannot. You can only go here, this area, this Piazzale Roma, with a car or trucks here where you load, and then everything else is done with a boat or on the trolleys. Just to see the different areas of Venice, this is the Canal Grande, San Marco, Santa Croce, and there are many, many little canals all around. This is the area of the Biennale. Okay. So let's see if we arrive by air freight, which is the most common way. There is an airport in Venice, not many flights, no freighters at all, but we do have some flights from all Europe and a few flights from the United States, New York, and I think recently Philadelphia maybe, but all lower deck. If you arrive into Venice airport, then you have to truck here where you can load the crates on the boat. If you arrive by truck from any other European city or by Milan or Rome airport, it's the same. You always arrive here and you have to get to this point where you can load the crates on the boat. Arriving with an carry to Venice airport, there is a possibility to go straight with a boat to the city of Venice following this route. The Venice port for sea freight is here. What I want to make really underline that there are different places where you can load the crates on the boat, but the one you should always be sure is used is this one, is Tronchetto, because it's the one that is already in Venice and you have not to sail. There is another one here, but then you have to sail a long way to go to Venice. So you are adding other time on a boat, which is not climate control, as we said, and so it's better. But normally it's this one. But I mean, if you are using maybe agents that you don't know or they are suggested by the organizers, you have to check that they are using this loading dock called Tronchetto. This is important. Again, another view. We are here with the Tronchetto. You see it's already in the city, so you have to go through the Grand Canal or the others. And then you have Capesaro, you have Palazzo Grassi here, Peggy Guggenheim Collection, Museo Correre, they are all here. And this is the closest point where you can go with a truck to all these museums and venues. If you don't, then you have to go, this way. I mean, it's another half an hour minimum if they are using another loading dock, which is better to avoid. Now we follow a case study. This is an exhibition. Arriving, can you hear me? Arriving the end of January this year in Capesaro from air freight. So we are really going to follow what has happened. It was the end of January. It was quite cold and a bit rainy. So they arrived at Milan airport here, truck to Venice, 3 hours approximately. As I said, in Venice airport, which is here, there are only lower deck flights. Trucks arrives to the Tronchetto, just in front, in the same area. There is a custom area where you have to go with the truck. They do not open the truck or the crates, but they need to see that the truck is there, clear the paper, and then you go to the area where there are the cranes to load on the boat. They are always, or most of the time, use the cranes to load on the boat. It's the safest and quicker and smooth way to load. It's not possible to do it by hand unless they are very light crates. So the truck is going to get there near the crane and the boat that are waiting. It was 8 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock in the morning in January. So you start being ready, and everything happens in the open air. This is important to know. If it's raining a lot, then we have to wait, because normally we don't do it. This was a big exhibition with many crates. It was a big boat with a crane. Couriers that can supervise everything. Normally you are ready with forklifts. The crates go with the crane, but they are basically handled to the boat. You know, it's just because then you have to go down, and this will be much more risky for the crate to be handled by hand, and they are heavy. So, but really, they are always held in the hand. And you have the boat is ready. You cover. It was raining, not that much, but you cover anyway. You have to load also all the stuff that you need to unpack, to handle, because there's no other way to go there anyway, unless it's already at the venue. There is the follow car in the boat waiting for the couriers. Normally they cannot be on the boat. It depends. The large boat can bring a number of people. So, but very often, if there is more than one courier, there is a follow boat ready to follow. And you pass here this bridge. It was the long bridge that we saw before, and you are right into the Grand Canal. I think I'm going to show again better. So from this point, we were here. The custom is here. So everything is done, is very close. You load the boat, you cross this, go under this bridge, and you start. You know, that depends where you are going, but you are already there. If you had to unload to another loading dock, then we will be adding at least half an hour of sailing in the Laguna. And then when you start following the boat, you can enjoy. You start seeing wonderful things, the Grand Canal, the gondole. This is the wine. This is, as I said, is transported on a boat. This is an express courier. You have the police. You know, everything is boat. The Grand Canal is like being a big motorway. You know, there's lots of traffic. There are the ferry boats that take people, like the buses. So when you get to the point where you have to unload, this was lucky because Cap Pesaro has their own loading dock. They are right on the Grand Canal, so there was no ground transportation in this case. But what is important to know that you have to moor the boat. These are already there, but then you have put, as you see, they are putting other big poles right in the ground to keep stable the boat. Because the ferry boats are going up and down, so you have to do this before start unloading. So basically the boat is moored on both sides. This happens only with the big boats and not with the smaller one, but it's important to have it. When you start unloading, then you have steps, little things that you have to prepare to have a smooth way, and you do the same, and you start with the crates going into the venue. Again, this was easy because it goes from the boat right into the venue in Capesaro. But then it's not finished, because then most of the exhibition rooms are on the first or second floor, and you have to go upstairs. There are no lifts, no freight elevator for sure, nowhere in Venice, like in many Italian museums. So you have to find a way of doing it. Here was decided with the lender to use these little electric trolleys, because there were many crates to go to the second floor. There were 4 steps to follow and many crates. These two to do the unpacking upstairs. We will see it again, but it's important, to understand all what must be done here, because sometimes having a double crate with a ladder crate inside or a travel frame is important to help people and speed up, and also have a more easy and secure handling of the artworks. When they are very heavy, it becomes quite difficult to handle by hand. Other times we have to build, like in Museo Correr, normally you build big scaffoldings and take with up with the pulleys. This is right in Piazza San Marco, so you have many other problems for tourists, etc. You have to face with all these problems. These are other. I mean, when you go to, if the venue is on the Grand Canal, it's easy. But then, if you have to go somewhere else, you have these little bridges that you have, to check with the height of the crates. It's important that you have really to study what we have to study. The agent is not going to do it. What we have to do to reach the point where we have to unload or load. Okay. Again, this is the Tronchetto, where we have been loading our crates on the boat. We have done this. Capesaro was quite close. Maybe it's one of the easiest. Then again, here you have Fondazione Prada, which is not in this map, but now they are here. You have Palazzo Grassi, Galleria dell'Accademia, Peggy Guggenheim, Museo Correr. Museo Correr, there are 2 ways of unloading. You have to do it here or here, and then you have to do some of the ground transportation with the trolleys. We'll see it. One of the most difficult one is the Querini Stamparia, because it's right in the middle, so you have to do a lot on the ground. Here, I've just put some information about the venues that have their own loading dock, and others that they don't. So you have to use the public ones. Or just a quick chart. I mean, you have for Capesaro approximately 20 minutes of boat from the Tronchetto to Capesaro, and then you are there. So total is 20 minutes approximately. Fondazione Prada is 25 minutes of water transport, and you are there. Palazzo Grassi we are very close. You have only 5 minutes or even less on trolleys. Galleria dell'Accademia the same. So this is the total time from the Tronchetto when you leave to reach the venues. It's not that much. Normally what is longer, if you have many crates, is that you have to wait to load all the crates and unload all the crates. So it's a fact that most of the crates are staying outside sometimes for a couple of hours or 3 hours. This is something that should be considered. And then you have the ground transportation. Ground is, this is, I mean, if it's raining, very tiny little road. They are not even road, and they are what they are. And again, remember that we have to take all our stuff. The roller for the crates, the tables, everything. So must be done or before or at the same time, but it takes even more time. And on trolleys, there is no other way. The boats is not a big issue. I mean, there are many different types of boats. I didn't put all because there are many. I just put minimum and maximum. The big boats can load up to 60 tons. I mean, it's quite, the one that we were using, for example, one like this one, normally they already have cranes. The smaller one do not have cranes. These are the cubic meters, but you see a number of them. So normally when we have the crate list, we see which is the best. Also, depending where you have to go, because the big boats can only go on the Canal Grande and a few other places. And if you have to go inside it, then you have to use anyway a smaller boat. Custom is not a big issue. Normally, the inspection takes place at the exhibition venue. They never ask to open the crates when you are there, so this is good. But what we have to take with you in consideration that from 12 to 3 p.m. normally it's difficult to operate. Even if you should be open the custom, you cannot find any officer. So if you arrive there, you have to build the schedule also according to this one. Otherwise, you have to wait 3 hours to have the truck going to the Troncheto to start unloading. And the other thing that you have to consider very often, that if there is a big or long ground transportation, then you have to consider the crowd of people around, depending on the season, and but normally you have to find the right time to do it, early morning or late evening. Someone asks if we can have a police escort. Yes, we can have police escort or private escort. Normally police is not doing it anymore like they used in the past, but only for few cases. They can have the state police, otherwise you have to have a private escort if you want. Then this is the follow car. Inside you see, it's very nice. Because we do have special couriers in Venice sometimes. This is a Troncheto, and he was there, but not as a courier. Another things that should be considered is a traffic limitation in Venice. I mean, traffic boat limitation. There are different areas where you can go only a certain time. You need to ask a special permit. So this can take 4 to 5 days to have it. So it's important, to schedule well in advance. It's not something that you have to do, but to give time to the agent to schedule all of this, because there are areas where you cannot go for free without authorization. Insurance is another little, not that important issue, but something to be considered, because not always the insurance understand that you have to use a boat. And normally this should be in the clauses. For an insurance company, even if it's a short route, the using of the boat is adding some rules and so some clauses. So you have to declare and remember them that if you go to Venice, the last leg of the transportation will be on a boat. So just a few things to remember for what we have seen. I hope that was everything clear. Insurance, as a preliminary checking, insurance must include the water transport. Routing, you have to understand which is the airport, and you have to consider that there will be a truck transport anyway. Loading dock, check that one will be used. Route to venue is also important to know. I'm going directly to the venue, or I have also a ground transportation. And the access to the venue, it's really important. This is it's not enough if I said you have to double check, or with the register you have to double check the sizes of the doors, of the windows where you go through, because this is very important. Regarding crate design and the specifications, access to venue, as I said before, sometimes it can be really useful to have a double crate and you can bring the inner crate upstairs or travel frame or what it is. And for sure, you have to consider that shockproof and waterproofing and thermal insulation should be really very well designed for these crates, because there is operations that are happening in the open air, as I said, and especially if there is ground transportation, if it's a long one, you cannot always cover, the floor with smooth area. I mean, obviously we use what do you say, trolleys with wheels. What do you say? Yeah. Okay. But again, I mean, it's going into the areas where it is not always so smooth. And regarding the transport schedule, which has always been to work very well in advance, again, route to venue, if it's only water and ground transportation, sometimes we have to go early morning or late night. We have to take into consideration about the custom office hours, the traffic limitation, and Acqua Alta, which is not high tide, I mean something else, something different. Acqua Alta can affect all our schedule at any moment. It's not happening like the high tide at a certain hours, and it happens. Can be the wind, can be the moon, can be many other reasons. You don't know, maybe you have your wonderful schedule and then you cannot go because of the Acqua Alta, because you cannot moor your boat, or because you cannot go on the ground transportation, because if there is water you cannot do anything else. So things can change even if has been everything very well prepared. See you in Venice. Hope all of you soon.